And here we go again. This time we're doing the portrait photography. Sorry, I should have started from the start. Thanks again for inviting me here to do this. I'm enjoying all your images. So here we go. A travel portraiture, this one right here, lighting up. Um, a kid once at the rugby club observed one of our older members smoking a pipe, and he said, "Look at that, an old-fashioned smoker." Um, all right, not even funny. Here we go. Great portrait. Like the contact. I like the engagement you have with your subject here, with your model. Lighting reasonably well controlled, I feel, given what looks like sort of quite difficult circumstances in terms of very, very harsh, bright sunlight, and coming from your model's left and creating that sort of dark patch on the right hand side of the face there, but still sort of pretty well controlled. The shadow from the headgear there, and that cuts across the left-hand side of the face, his right, um, is a bit distracting, I guess. And I wondered if you could have done something about that. Perhaps in circumstances like this, and I'm guessing it's probably not feasible to go back and take the photo again, but in circumstances like this, I would consider using a fill-in flash. The on-camera flash is usually quite adequate in terms of just filling in some of the details in the face there. As it is, though, love the engagement, love the fact that you've grabbed this person's attention. 15 points. And here we have a young lady, I'm assuming, being, I'm going by your title here, but the story is there, being grateful for presumably this morsel of food she's been given, that she's sitting there, that is sitting there on her left. And I mean, it looks quite neat and tidy, really. So you're clearly not on the edge of poverty, but clearly also grateful for what she's getting there. Again, a bit like the previous one, as a travel photograph, you've managed to grab this person's attention, and you got her focusing on you and looking slightly quizzically at you. So liked it, not quite as much as the last one, so 14 points. Frosty morning for this young canine out there, clearly enjoying whatever is about to happen next. I don't think he or she actually knows what's going to happen next, but very excited about it and very anticipant of it, and staring at you with the full attention there. I would have done possibly a little bit more with the depth of field here, because the face, use this one, the face here, lovely in focus, the eyes are great in focus, but you don't need to you sort of go only a little bit down the neck of this animal, and we're losing the focus already there. And for a portrait like this, I would have preferred to see the whole animal in focus, nose to tail, as it were. And also, given that I'm assuming this is your pet, or the owner wasn't far away, you could have positioned it, your model, a little bit better, I feel, because you got the kind of diagonal water's edge there, kind of cutting through half of your portrait. So a few niggly little things to work on there. It's another 14. And here we got Sergi. Maybe not. Love the pose of these animals. They are so inquisitive, and they are so startling, and the way they kind of freeze their pose, and like your title suggests here, this is my watch, and they they do take it in turn and stand on guard and take a watch. Not an awful lot wrong with this one. The folk, it's nice and sharp, crisp. The pelt is, beautifully rendered, and you even got even got a little bit of dirt creeping out of the corner of its eye there. Um, Niggly things, the background, a little bit distracting. You've got some darks down here, and over here on the left-hand side, you've also got some darks. So, could you have done something about that to tidy those up? But other than that, yeah, pretty good portrait. This 16. More dogs. Um, Very white, very blown out here on the forehead here. So I would have wanted to see if you could bring out some more detail in that. The great thing about this one though is that you've used the flowers, you've used the buttercups and the clover there in the background to kind of frame it, so you create a natural frame around this dog. In an ideal world, I wanted the dog's head to be a little bit higher up, so it gets, so it gets above this buttercup here. Sorry. So you get the chin above the buttercup here, and you use this natural frame that you've created here to actually frame the whole of this dog's face. But creative, nice idea. 15. God knows what's going on here. Is he sweating, or is he has he been swimming or something like that? Don't know. Very intent on whatever he is going to be doing here, and also quite excited about it, anticipating what's going to happen. It's a picture, it's a portrait that tells a good story, this one. So I like this one quite a lot, and I'm going to hold on to it. And we got our straw hat and fencing in the background. Once again, like almost all these photos here, you've all managed to grab the attention of your model and of your subject. Not entirely sure what this person is thinking. Is it kind of, it's kind of difficult to interpret, which makes it an enjoyable thing to try and study for a little bit, because is it amusement about the fact that you wanted to take this photograph, or is it sort of tolerance and almost perseverance or patience that I'm going to put up with you because I have to, but do get on with it, kind of thing. Other than that, split background, which makes it slightly awkward to kind of look at it, because it's pretty much divided down the middle, where you got these plaited bits of sticks of wood out here, and this looks like a tree of some sort with the bark peeling. So you kind of got an image here with two halves to it. So slightly confusing. So I gave this one 14 points. And this next young lady we get to see probably about 4 times, I think. This one is, this particular one is lovely, nice and natural. Lighting is beautifully controlled, and the way that as a portrait it goes, this makes me warm to this lady. She's having fun and she's engaging with you, and this is all great. And like I said, the lighting is well controlled. I like the pose too, the way that she's kind of got her hands in front of you, like in front of her like that, and beautifully positioned to streamline with the rest of her pose, and the way the body is shaped. I liked it a lot. I'm going to hold on to this one. And here's another one of the same lady, different pose. and this time, again, lighting is very well controlled. Everything is, nothing is blown out and nothing is blocked out. So it's very well controlled. I did find, as opposed to the previous one, I did find that the pose here felt, ever so slightly awkward. It's in a setup, in an artificially posed um, portrait shot, it's always difficult to work out what to do with the hands. It kind of comes up there, and it's ever so slightly too dominant. But great background, well controlled, good studio shot, 17 points. And this one, love the colors, like the shape, the clothing, the headgear, and the necklace stroke choker, almost a choker, isn't it? The way that you build up the colors there. I possibly would have preferred to see the whole of the necklace included and not cut off the bottom bit, but that's not to say that it goes on forever and you can possibly do it. I don't know, it just feels a little bit awkward how it's just chopped off right there. The colors are great. Expression on her face on this one, she kind of looks a little bit startled. It sort of creates a distance between you, the photographer, and the model, and that comes across to me as well as the viewer of this one. Is that, whoa, what's happening here? Are you taking a photo? And you haven't got that bond and don't quite have the engagement. But technically well executed in terms of lighting and all that stuff. So boom. 15 and a half, just to be awkward. Righty. And here we got the fourth one of this young lady. Great shot. Again, ever so slightly awkward pose, I feel, in terms of what to do with the hand, but at least, or arms rather, but at least you've kind of hidden them a little bit um, behind her head. You've also got a sort of slightly more moody shot here compared to some of the other ones, and especially the first one that I talked about, where she's so animated and excited about things, and it just conveys a very, very happy feeling. This is kind of much more of a moody shot. Again, lighting is great, slightly overdone here perhaps on her left of her body, but other than that, well controlled all around, and you've certainly shown off her athleticism and her strength when it comes to, I mean, she must do an awful lot of upper body work with her arms and things to have biceps like that. Anyhow, not going to hold it. I'm going to give this one 16 points. Love the eyes on this one, and the very, very straightforward composition that you presented me with here, and like the way that you've controlled, because it's a studio setup, you can do this, of course. So the lighting is well controlled, beautifully rendered throughout. I would have been tempted to warm it up perhaps a little bit. Some of her skin tones are on the kind of blue side, especially the foot in the foreground, I guess, is what probably drew my attention to it. But I like the pose, and I do like the sort of straightforward, in your face simplicity of it. And of course, like I've already said, what draws you straight to this is the intensity of the eyes. So holding this one, apple bobbing. One way to get kids to eat fruit, right? And he seems to have enjoyed it. Would it have been better if you'd timed it a little bit differently so that you could have got this kid with his eyes open? I think I would have preferred that, but I don't know if you got the chance to do so. As it is, capturing the moment and the excitement and all the fun of the fair, as they say. So it's another 16 points for me. I'm using way too many 16s in this section, I think, but here we go. The two musicians here engaging with each other, having presumably just finished a number. I think I would have liked it better if the two musicians had been facing and looking at the audience and concentrating on who they were there for, if you like. Um, and the way that it's kind of split up to makes it ever so slightly awkward, I think. The way that got both the flowers and the note stand in the middle, separating them and dividing them up. So, slightly awkward shot, this one for me. And not really sure whether they enjoyed it or whether they're envious of each other or what the story is here. So not quite there. 13 points. Amongst the follies, so I'm assuming we're out in a sort of Victorian uh, outbuilding retirement place. Um, so the headgear, kind of loving the shape of all of this, to be fair. The diagonal across the background is not too intrusive because you manage to keep it well out of focus, so it's kind of there as a sort of grey background. So that's all well and good. And then you have the shape of the headgear framing her face that brings you down to the shoulders. The lovely puffed out see-through material that brings you down to the upper torso, composition that you've presented me with here. So not an awful lot wrong with this. Slightly dark background towards the top, but that's not too bad. So liked it a lot. 17 points. Wow, and this guy gets everywhere, doesn't he? He's been at our club a few times, and he does an awful lot of separate shoots as well. Like the intensity, I'm just reminding myself what I'm doing. So, like the intensity of the eyes here, do like the smoking gun. And the way that you manage to blend the smoke in, because I'm assuming that you're not actually allowed to fire this weapon inside. And of course, the way Graham himself is engaging with you and making the whole shot quite intense. Also, like the lighting, there's you're shooting against the black background and you've gone to monochrome, but you manage to bring your subject out, and it doesn't kind of bleed away into the background. So great effort. I'm gonna hold this one. And here he is again. This time much tighter crop, I guess, and you got him looking out to the left, possibly concentrating on one of his enemies that he's going to fire this gun at. Lighting is good. The thing with this particular shot is that it's not sharp and it's not in focus. And please forgive me here, but given that you got a studio set up here and you got all the time in the world, you could have done better there, I feel. So quite a harsh 12 for me, this one, because technically it's not executed right. Another one on Graham. Two guns this time. He's clearly feeling the pressure. Lighting in the studio setup, and the same quote as the other two shots, looking straight at you, bringing the intensity of the moment towards you. This one, unlike the one that I talked about a couple of shots ago, here we do see the blacks kind of bleed out. You haven't got your lighting set up perfectly for this sort of shot, especially from the left, if you like, because the face is okay, but then use the cursor. So, but up here it kind of bleeds away a little bit. Equally down here, the jacket kind of you don't see the end of the jacket and where that bleeds into the background. But especially the two barrels of this shotgun here, it just drifts into the blackness there. Nice and sharp though, and very crisp, and like I said, the engagement with the model here is good. So I'm going to give this one 16 points. And we got the accordion player. You've gone to monochrome. I think the subject suits that. I would have racked up the contrast a little bit and make the whole thing a little bit more gritty. And can you control the tonal range a little bit more, especially on the face? It kind of feels a little bit whited out. But do like it. I think the subject matter itself suits the black and white treatment. I would have, like I said, I would have racked up the contrast a bit and gone a little bit more sort of high pass, and even try slant it towards the infrared and see what that does. You might try that and think, oh, that looks awful. It's one of those to experiment with. I'm not going to do that to other people's images, so I can't tell you whether it would have worked or not. It's just something to play with. And then finally, because it's such a good shot to my mind, it's a shame you got this blemish up here on the brickwork, and that could easily be fixed and make it not take my attention away from the portrait itself. So holding it. And final one of this particular section, and this is one where I always fall foul of this myself. It looks like you've used a sheet or something like that in the background, and you forgot to iron it before you hung it up. Maybe you did it purposely to do that grittiness, but because it's there crisscrossing all around your main subject here, it holds my attention, and I kind of have to force myself to go back and look at the guitarist himself. But having said all of that, it is technically well executed, nicely in focus, and also you got your model engaging with you. Being sort of slightly critical again, I would have wanted to bring a little bit more light out in the eyes of your model here. But other than that, like I said, the one that dominates it for me is the crinkly background. Okay, so I kind of left myself with 5. So we're going back to this young lad who's got himself wet either through exercise or through the swimming pool. Critiqued it already, so I'm going to give this one 18 points. And we got our Graham with his smoking gun, nicely separated out from the background, and the gritty touch here of converting it to monochrome has worked in my opinion. So that's another 18 points. The accordion player, couple of things to tidy up, like I said, and a couple of things to experiment with. So this one gets 19 points and is 3rd place in this particular section. We're going back to the very happy, smiling Natasha. Certainly brighten up my day. Boom, boom. Liked it a lot. I thought, it's especially the mood that this conveys and the happy smiley face that held my attention, and definitely liked it a lot. And like I said, technically very, very well executed. So 19.5 and 2nd place, which leaves me with this young lady with her bright blue eyes, and the pose and everything else was, absolutely great about this one. Perhaps you could tidy up this little bit out here, in terms of the background to make it absolutely perfect. But great effort. 20 points and winner of this section.